NFL free agency has started. Nick Foles gets $50 million guaranteed. John Henry, is that Dak money? Should we re-sign him?
Lord, no.
I don't know. What did he make in Mississippi State?
Oh. PressBox DFW Live. It's episode 2. The good news is, Gil Leberton and John Henry, we didn't get canceled after one episode. Congratulations. It's happened in this business. Trust me.
I don't know. Did we get any letters from the FCC?
No.
That's what I'm wondering.
You know what we got, though? We got a trophy for flawless execution.
That's right.
I think it's an Emmy, but it might be a Telly. It could be an Oscar. We don't know.
That's right. Plus, we have an array of friends and memorabilia, stuff we've collected, stuff that the wives told us to get out of the house, and we have a special guest,
Al Jolson, joining us. That's awesome.
No, that would be Hank Aaron, Home Run King.
Of course,
Aaron Hank.
That would be Hank
what a dumb
Aaron.
guess by you, John.
And this was crafted in 1975, the year after he hit number 715.
Awesome. All right, let's get into
He's available for sale, too.
Let's get into all our toys and trinkets and whatnot as the show goes on. But first of all, we have a very special guest today. You guys will remember Wally Lynn, good friend of mine, multimedia star here in DFW for years and years and years. I met him in the 90s on the Cowboys beat, and he was actually one of the voices of the Cowboys on old KLIF 570 AM, if you remember that.
Absolutely.
And we got to be really good social friends. One of the most talented guys I've ever met. Gil, you probably knew, cross paths him a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
He could sit down without sheet music and play piano. He could do impressions of Michael Irvin that you would think it was Michael Irvin.
Wow.
He could sing Frank Sinatra on request. And he's very, very creative at radio. Won several awards. Was the voice of SMU, was the voice of the Dallas Sidekicks. Did you run across him ever in your travels?
Oh, tons of times. And of course I listened to him. He was he was a shining star in local radio, and I mean he was. Plus, he could handle whatever, like you said, he could handle whatever sport
very versatile.
He was doing. Very versatile, and I've missed him on the radio.
Yep. And John, you remember him with old Leon Simon?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wally and Leon, and then they turned into the Sports Brothers. I don't
Right.
think they were brothers. We're going to ask him today if they're actually brothers. So
Different mothers.
Wally Lynn was also one of Mark Cuban's first hires at broadcast.com. And that turned into when the IPO went down and broadcast was bought by Yahoo. Wally Lynn, I remember going on Beltline Road in Addison one night with Mark Cuban in a limo, literally popping champagne corks out the sunroof because Wally Lynn was worth $4.4 million in stock. And Cuban, of course, was worth $6 billion, but $4 million in little sports writer media world was like $60 billion.
So he had been working without pay, more or less.
Pay-ish, but waiting for this payday, which actually came through.
Right.
So, and then life happened. The tech bubble burst. He had vested funds that were just diminishing before he could even cash out. His best friend committed suicide. His mom died. He got divorced. I mean, life took Wally and just bit him in the butt. And he started drinking heavily, made some really bad life decisions, was twice near death and hospitalized. I lost track of him, as did his family, as did everybody. Found him homeless in 2015 in Dallas, set him up. He got into some more legal trouble, and he's been in and out of trouble, in and out of consciousness for a while. The last time I saw him was a year ago in McKinney, Texas, at the Samaritan Inn, and I haven't seen him since then. But he's reconnected with me actually through PressBoxDFW.com. He read some of our stories. He started liking it on Facebook. I'm like, is that the ghost of Wally, or is that Wally? So let's get him on the phone. I've been emailing him back and forth, and he loves the site. He loves the podcast. I said, Wally, people still care about you and your story. And he goes,
Absolutely.
He goes, I can't tell you where I am. I said, fine, just tell us how you're doing and what you're doing, and people just love to hear your voice. So we're going to try to connect with Wally Lynn today, our old friend.
Hello, folks.
And there he is. Waldo.
Am I live with you guys like that? You guys just call and wait for somebody on the other end of the line?
That's the way we do it on podcasts, Wally. Welcome to PressBox
That's awesome.
DFW Live. How are you, man?
Absolutely awesome.
So it's really you, right? This is not like an imposter, or this is not like a tape of something from the 90s you put together. This is really you.
Well, okay, I can prove that real easily. Gil, good morning, or good afternoon to you, too. I'm speaking to your co-host who thinks that Stevie Wonder is not blind and that the Beatles are no good.
Okay, you're probably exaggerating, but I don't think Stevie Wonder's blind. I'm not a big Beatles fan. That proves he really does know me, Gil.
That would be.
I didn't know
that'd
that.
be an indication.
That's a segment unto itself. for
Wally,
you guys.
Yes, it is.
quit trying to yank the show off the tracks. We're here to talk about you. All right, so this is Wally Lynn joining us on PressBox DFW Live with Gil Leberton and John Henry, Richie Witt. So Wally, seriously, how the heck are you, number one? Are you alive, and what sort of well are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, I put me at about an 8, I would say. Definitely good for those who don't know. I mean, I don't know how much you talked about me in advance for people that know the story, but yeah, I've had a rough run
Yes.
over the years. And I guess 2008 to 2012 was the roughest. 2013 I got sober, so I've been sober for 6 years now, going on 6 years.
Congratulations.
And just fighting the good fight to kind of reestablish myself and figure out a way to use my passion and combine it with the new things in my life and make them a working element for me. And so I would say that the arrow is definitely up for me. And there are not enough hours in the day right now for me to get things done that I want to get done.
I mean, I've got to be honest with you. I'm blown away by the way you sound, because the last time we talked, you were a little sluggish, you were a little slow, you had the smell of somebody who was sleeping on a baseball field, which you were. You sound like the old Wally. You don't have to tell us where you are, but what are you doing that's got you reinvigorated?
Well, here's what I'm doing. I am a communications director for a nonprofit. I can tell you it's in Texas.
Wow.
And that the basics of it are this. It helps people recovering from alcohol and drug addiction. And the program is heavy on teaching the word. And that's something that has pretty much kicked in with me pretty deeply over the last, I guess, 4 or 5 months or so. And through a bit of a bizarre string of circumstances, I ended up here in November of last year. And what started as a residency has led to this position. And like I said, there's so many things for me to work on that it's hard for me to put the pen down and say, okay, what do I do next?
Wally, you sound like Richie says. What I'm hearing here is the old voice, the old great Wally Lynn voice. Where does that fit in your life right now? Do you want to get back in radio one day? Is that something you'd like to do, or are you just taking it one day at a time?
Well, to answer that, yes. And it's funny how things pull at you in different directions, because at times I say to myself, don't look back, right? Don't think about some of the things that happened to you in the past, but at the same time I go, golly, I sure had fun in that past, right?
Amen to that.
So you don't completely dismiss that, and it's what I know, and it's what I'm good at, and it's what I have a passion for. So I start thinking about that and the things that are going in my life, on in my life today. And I say, well, what can I do that's new and it's maybe a little bit different? And I've kind of settled on something that would be a creation of faith and sports, and make it a revenue generator for the people that I'm working for, and teach them some things that they maybe haven't thought of. Well, maybe is not the word, that they haven't thought of, and use my my background.
Hello. I hope that wasn't the authorities bursting in on Wally's good interview.
I'm going to try and get him back on the line, guys.
So,
Live
okay,
TV.
I'm not kidding around. I haven't talked to him in a year. And when I picked him up last year at the Samaritan Inn in McKinney, he literally, I'm not kidding, I'm not exaggerating, he literally was sleeping on a Little League baseball field underneath a metal bench. And from what he sounds today, I mean, if you didn't know, you wouldn't know, right?
Right.
Unbelievable.
Sounds like old Wally.
Yeah, he does sound
He
like
sounds
Bill
like
Wally.
a slightly older Wally.
Yeah.
That's what he sounds like. Same
Rediscovered
voice, though.
himself.
And maybe we'll never hear from him again. Maybe that beep that's all we get of Wally.
No.
Or maybe we'll get him.
Okay, I'm back.
He's back.
All right, what was that trick, fan? Are you pulling your pranks again? All right, you're up to your old tricks?
No, where'd you lose me? What was I saying?
That's where we lost you. You're like, and then the dramatic twist of the story
you-
is beep.
Yeah, you were telling us about blending.
I got to go back that far?
No, you don't have to go that far. All right, let's fast forward to this. So you talk about don't look back, but you sound so good. We've got to revisit how bad it got to appreciate how good you sound. If that makes sense. So
Okay.
I mean, I spearheaded an effort to find you when you're on the streets in Dallas, and then I was just telling the guys while you were gone, picking you up at the Samaritan Inn when you were living on the baseball field. What was the rock bottom for you? What was the point where you thought, I don't know if I'm going to make it out of this?
What was the rock bottom? Probably at that point where I was trying to figure out how to get to the Samaritan Inn. I didn't know how I was going to get there.
Like you're talking
Nowhere to go.
like physically, like how do I go from
all of
point
my
A to point
clothes
B?
in a bag, right?
Yeah.
And basically sort of camped out at the back of a place that was rather close to a place that was one of the last places where you saw me. And this fellow that I knew came by and picked me up and said, "You need a ride?" And I said, "Yeah, we're going to go." And he took me to the Samaritan, and I checked in there and ended up staying there for a period of, I can't remember what it was, 4 months. 4 or 6 months.
Yeah.
And after that, kind of started a new life in a new place and saw you for the first time about a year ago.
Yep.
And so that's the long and short of it on that front.
Wally, this is John Henry. A huge fan growing up here in DFW, listening to you on Cliff.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much.
Really always enjoyed you and Leon. What was it like working with him and at Cliff?
Well, first things first, God rest his soul. He passed away, for those who don't know. He
Yes.
died on September 18th of last year. He was 78 years old, and he was certainly a life changer for me in the way that he looked at life and the sayings that he obviously came up with. I to this day, guys, I still quote him on things that he says. You know,
I can vouch
you know
for
the
that.
classics. What you do speaks so loud, I can't hear what you're saying, and the great line he had about Michael Irvin, the time that Irvin was in his trouble. And I know you guys remember this, when Irvin showed up for a court appearance, and he was wearing a long mink coat
Yep.
at court, right? Mm-hmm. And in only the way that Leon can say it, Leon said, "Look here. If you've ever been accused of stealing chickens, don't come into the courthouse with feathers flying out your pockets."
Oh my God, Leon! They don't make them like
You know.
Leon anymore. They just don't.
But yeah, you know, I miss Leon. He was such a huge influence on my life, and to think that before they gave us that position, Leon and we replaced a guy by the name of Skip Bayless. You remember that guy?
No, never heard of him.
You heard of him, but I was so narrow-minded. I thought I could do that show by myself. And when they said, "We're going to put you with a black barber from Oak Cliff who calls Norm Hitzke's show in the morning," and I said, "Okay, I've heard him call in. Let's sit down and talk." The next thing you know, we're doing a show together, and we're off and running.
And it was a legendary show. And Wally, I'm telling you, man, I mean this as a friend. I mean this as a professional. You sound unbelievable. You sound very clear-minded. Your clarity is perfect. Your diction's good. You sound like you could do a show tomorrow. Maybe you'll come do one with us live here in the not too distant future.
Well, that'd be a blast. I'd love to, because like I said, I still follow sports. Maybe not to the level that I used to. Still haven't had a chance to see Luka Doncic play, which is on my, I don't want to say bucket list. I got about 15 years to get that done.
I was
Right?
about to say, yeah, your bucket list has been edited.
But yeah, there's plenty of sports passion that's still in my belly. It's just a mixed bag for me now, and it's one of those things where I say to myself on a daily basis, my past does not define who I am today.
There you go.
And I pretty much wake up saying that and thinking, what can I try to get out of the ballpark today? What can I do today that's new, that's different, that's redefining, that sets me in another path where I can say, that was pretty cool. Let's try some more of that, and let's do less of that.
Yep.
I was just in a radio station yesterday. Had contacts with TV stations over the last 2 or 3 weeks, CBS, NBC, Fox, doing other stuff for for this place where I'm working as the communications director. So, all that goes into a bag where I say, this is fun. And like I said before, there are not enough hours in the day for me right now.
Wally Lynn, I'm telling you, man, I've seen you at the top of the mountain. I've seen you below the lowest rung on the ladder, and you sound great. You're headed in the right direction. I can't tell you how many people reached out to me when I started promoting this interview saying, I can't believe you have Wally. How's he going to sound? What's he doing? I said, you got to tune in. A lot of people in DFW remember you, and they love you, and they're going to be very happy to hear this interview, man. So keep in touch and keep doing what you're doing, brother. We love you.
Well, I appreciate it, and you guys take up that Stevie Wonder Beatles issue, and shout out to my good friend Anisha. I know she's listening. She's been a rock for me through this. So,
all right,
you guys keep rocking on the DFW Press Box.
Hey, Wally, one quick thing. Catch up on your sports at PressBoxDFW.com. Don't be afraid to visit that, okay? We have some good writing for you there.
You got it.
All right, man. Wally
Thanks,
Lynn.
guys.
Take care, Wally.
Wow. I'm blown away, Gil.
Oh yeah, you know what to compare him to. I can't tell you how many times over the years I just, like a lot of people, at first we assumed that, well, he's set for life. We knew the story of the whole Mark Cuban the story and all that, and it just hit right in the gut to when you heard that Wally's had some rough luck and he's living on the streets. And Richie, great credit goes to you for stepping in as a friend and tracking him down. And, a lot of it made you might have saved him.
His family tells me that. That's it still gives me chills just thinking about it, because like we all do, I'd lost track of him through the years. Yeah. He went off the deep end. I was a big ego radio star. I lost track of him, and shame on me. And then his brother reached out and said, we can't find Wally. And I was like, what do you mean? And he told me the story, and I'm like, just this guilt / motivation just sunk in. I was like, we got to go find him. And literally we found him, and he sounds better than ever. And you can read about Wally at PressBoxDFW.com. I put up today, or Gil, you posted this morning, the latest update about him, which we can now edit in a very favorable, some information. So, yeah, there's the story at PressBoxDFW.com. It's Wally Lynn. He sounds alive. He sounds well. We don't know where he is, but what he's doing sounds exciting, and God bless him. That's good news to start the show. All right. Read our daily writing, PressBoxDFW.com. Watch and listen to us weekly here at PressBox DFW Live. Let's get the show started, shall we?
Let's do it.
Tribute to the greatest sports writer in DFW history. That's next.
Hi, this week's pregame meal is sponsored by our good friends at Fort Worth Business Press. For 31 years, the Business Press has been the guide to business news, events, trends in Tarrant County. You won't find it in the local newspaper. And you can find the Business Press online by going to fortworthbusiness.com. That's all one word, fortworthbusiness.com. And be sure to sign up for their free twice daily newsletter. It contains links to all the day's stories from our PressBox DFW website. And be sure to tell them that PressBox DFW Live sent you.
They sound like they're our partners.
They are. They've been kind enough to run our links, and we have a lot of friends over there, and a lot of talented people from the journalism world that are running it. Rich Conner and his crew.
Yep. And you said that you won't find it in the local newspaper. Is there still a local newspaper in Fort Worth?
Not for business.
Not for anything?
Yeah,
They abandoned
They still have
the
green
business
sheet over there. I mean, I don't know what's still in circulation over there.
Yeah.
All right, what do you got today in the pregame meal?
We were all saddened last Thursday night late by the news that I've always called him the poet laureate of Fort Worth, Dan Jenkins.
Very appropriate.
Had passed away. Those of us who were lucky enough to get to meet him and know him were certainly saddened, but our lives were enriched by knowing. Our lives were made a lot more fun by knowing him. I mean, not only did he have 25, did he write 25 books?
That just blew me away.
Well,
25 books.
Yeah. And another comment.
our colleague Matt Mosley asked me. He said, "Well, which books would you recommend?" And that's like asking, like going into a gelato shop or an ice cream place and which flavor. They're all of them are good in their own right. But I honestly think that that Dan though he made a lot of money on the books,
Yep.
and then 3 of them were made into movies. To me, the writing that I always enjoyed, the writing that inspired me, was his writing for magazines, particularly Sports Illustrated.
I liked his golf.
Oh,
He changed the game of golf the way I watched it because of how he wrote about it.
college football and golf.
Yep.
College football and golf.
So I met him one time, if I can just interject real
Sure.
quick. You guys probably knew him better than me. I met him one time. It was at a Cotton Bowl. And he comes up to me, and I was like, I wanted to bow. But I was like, he doesn't know me from anybody. He comes up, and he goes, "I like your writing." And I was like,
Well,
and he goes, "When you don't get too carried away with the syrup." And to this day, I'm writing, I think, not too much syrup, because I'm guilty of that. We all are. But I mean, only he could put it that way,
Right.
and give me like a life lesson about writing. So
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
I met him probably about 10 years ago. I was working on something. I don't remember what it was. I got his number. Somebody had his number. I called him. He didn't call me back. 10 days go by. Nothing. I'm like, well,
You're used to that, though.
yeah. So one day, sure enough, there's Dan Jenkins on my phone. Pick it up, and he apologized profusely for being out of town. He and June had gone out of town and hadn't got my message. And he said, in the future, you need something, just email me. Because I'm always on my laptop and wherever I am, and just email me. And we kind of became pen pals over the last 10 years,
Wow.
writing back and forth. And he actually he collaborated with us last September. We to mark the death of Burt Reynolds, we wanted to reprise the role of Billy
right.
Clyde Puckett, and Burt Reynolds, of course, was Billy Clyde and on the big screen, and we created this scenario in which Billy Clyde was going to go back to TCU and receive some sort of Legends Award or something, and we asked Dan if he would. We could send him a Q&A format. And he goes, absolutely, let's do it. And that turned out really well. And he was quite a gentleman. And what I adored about him is his love of his craft. I mean, the guy, he worked so hard at it, and he worked up to the last day of his life.
Yeah.
And that to me is the most admirable thing about him.
Larger than life, but never got too big for his britches.
Right.
Which is talking to us a little.
Right, exactly,
peons. I mean,
exactly.
If I was him, I'd be like, John,
Exactly,
who? Get
exactly.
out of it. I've never called you back.
Exactly.
No way.
Dan's daughter, Sally, who is a great columnist in her own right for the Washington Post, had a very moving tribute to her dad, and told a couple of funny episodes as only a family member could. And I'd heard from a few people on the day after he died, and they said, "Do you have any good Jenkins stories?" And I said, "Well, Dan's not some, he didn't do shtick.
Yeah, he didn't do bits.
It was, but he was just naturally funny,
Authentic.
and
Completely
and
authentic.
it just normal conversations. He'd crack you up. He'd come up with a line out of nowhere.
Yep.
It's just like when TCU dedicated the the press box to him. He said that it's always best to get something named after you when you're still upright,
Yeah, when you're vertical.
when you're vertical. And he was like that. Sally told a great story in there of his next book. It's probably a spoiler alert, but he revisits all his characters. Apparently, this is his book that he didn't quite finish or
Gotcha.
was close to finishing at his death. And so Sally's going to edit it and it's going to be published. But Dan went back through all his old characters and what they're doing now.
Oh,
and
wow.
Billy Clyde.
Genius.
Billy
Genius.
Clyde
Yeah.
has 2 dogs now that he's named Tom and Giselle.
Genius.
So random now. It's
I know.
perfectly random. Tom and then
Just-
Giselle.
And of course, everybody knows who he's referring
Now,
to.
is it? I think I read this, and you guys know better than me. But did Blackie Sherrod hire him at the Fort Worth Press?
Yes,
That's how that went
Blackie
down.
actually hired him twice.
Right.
He did.
Blackie hired him for the press with that legendary staff that they had, Bob Schrake
Right.
and everybody, and then he hired again at the Dallas Times.
That's the Times
Herald.
Herald.
He told me at one point in time that had the rest of his life not gone off to Sports Illustrated and the Times Herald in New York and everything else and all the 25 books, that he would have been perfectly happy as a sports writer for his entire life at the Fort Worth Press. He'd have
Wow.
been perfectly happy doing that his entire life.
Some of us are lucky that way. So, do you think he read our stuff sometimes and just was like, "Oh, Jesus, what is
Oh, no
happening?"
doubt.
I mean,
I
when I met him, and I was just like, "Oh, I hope he didn't read that one thing I
Right.
wrote about the thing." And then,
Well, I told the story. We had a bunch of good stories on the morning after he passed away, and I told the story about how I was kind of scared to talk to him.
Of course.
I would see him at
absolutely
golf
was.
tournaments. I'd see him at the Masters, and he was very visible. He was in the press room. He was in the media center, as I
Yep.
was, and I just couldn't muster the courage to.
what
to
do
go
you
talk
say?
to
What's
him.
an opening line?
Right?
It's like the
and-
hottest
and-
girl you've ever seen trying to ask out on a date, and there's no
Yeah.
good
Yeah,
line.
there was a lot of
hum it,
that.
hum it,
There was a
hum it,
lot of
hum it,
that in
hum
that,
it.
and so I said, well, finally, summoned the courage one day. And he says, I know who you are. And, I said, I was thinking, hey, I'm the guy whose pictures on page 37 of the newspaper that falls on your lawn each
Right.
morning. And he says, I know who you are. He says, you need to get on Pat Sullivan's ass more.
Yeah, see, and that's just the kind of stuff that blew us away. That he even knew who you were and would give you pointers. And yeah, he's one of the best. We're gonna miss him. Speaking of missing, next up in Double Dribble, the king is dead. Long live the Jayhawks.
Welcome to Double Drivel this week. It's brought to you by Mama's Pizza. Satisfying appetites, fellas, with legendary pizza pies to die for since 1968.
Look at you guys with all the sponsors. Y'all been out moonlighting.
Hustling.
We've been on the
I better
street
get
knocking
the
on
stick.
doors.
Yeah. I'm impressed. Where's the pizza? You bringing some in for us? Maybe next
Do
week?
that, absolutely.
This
Do
week
that
you brought
next
a
week.
brick. Maybe next week pizza. How about an upgrade? All right. Give us
There is
some
no comparison between those two things.
Double Dribble.
In Double Dribble this week, we explore the Big 12 tournament, which has a different number one seed for the first time in 15 years.
Yep.
Believe it or not. Kansas State and Texas Tech toppled Kansas, the perennial heavyweights of perennial heavyweights of the nation.
Yes.
Which they'd won 14 consecutive regular season titles, but this was the entire league was a very unlike un-Big 12-like season. Kansas was down, of course, and West Virginia was down.
Oh wow, they were horrible.
Bottom of the barrel this year. But Kansas State enters this week's tournament at the number one seed. They beat Texas Tech in a tie break involving Baylor. Tech split with Baylor, and Kansas State swept them.
And that tournament's this week up in Kansas City. None of
It
us are going
is.
to be shocked if Kansas wins the tournament, right?
Right, it's in Kansas City.
Absolutely.
And of
Right.
course, it's not exactly that Kansas became chopped liver.
No.
No, exactly not. They're young.
Yeah.
When they came here to TCU, they started 4 freshmen.
That might have been game of the year in the Big 12.
Yeah, it could have been.
TCU just absolutely brain farted down the street. You had to try hard to lose that game.
Terrible possession at the end of the game, and then the
yes.
first 4 possessions of the overtime was a disaster.
Other than those 5, they had a really good game. That's kind of important.
Well, everyone seems to think that the Big 12 will have 7 at least in the tournament, maybe 8.
Yeah,
Possibly 8.
All right.
Do we
So
think
that means TCU's in.
TCU needs to win their first round
No,
game? Right?
I don't think so.
You
I
think they're already in?
I think they're already in.
I think they might need 2 wins. And of course, it also depends what happens in the conference tournaments,
Sure,
at the other
absolutely.
conference tournaments this week.
Yeah.
But I think, at this point, I think they are in. That was a big win at Austin on Saturday.
Huge.
Speaking of Austin, can we talk about that for a minute? Shaka Smart. I'm so disappointed in what he's done.
Or not,
because
or not.
or not. Because at Virginia Commonwealth, he had havoc. Full court press, in your face. It was like the old Nolan Richardson teams, right? 40 minutes of hell with Nolan Richardson in Arkansas. He went to Texas, and my brother's like, "Where's the press?" I was like, "He's got to get his own players. Give him a couple years." He never even tried havoc, right? Just played traditional basketball.
Yeah, he tried it.
He did?
At the
Well,
start.
I mean, maybe for like 10 minutes of the first game, but his identity was.
He tried it on Saturday when it was too late.
He did, right, yeah. His last home game before he gets fired, he tried it. He's not going to survive this, is he?
Well, I don't think so. But if you talk to some of the people down there, they mention the well, he's got a $4 million buyout.
They're going to owe him a lot of money.
Yeah.
Big
a lot.
buyout.
Yep.
But when has money ever been a problem for Texas?
That's true.
That's true.
Absolutely.
If they want to make a change, they'll make a change. The question is, where do they go from here? And that's a question that you need to answer, John. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, John.
There's a lot of speculation that my man at Texas Tech, Chris Beard, could be on that list.
Well, he's done a heck of a job, man. That team.
If he's not National Coach of the Year, he's
number 2 defensively, and they only really have one player with Culver. I mean, he's their only
picked
real-
7th.
Yeah, picked 7th.
They got 2 of the most sought after graduate transfers in the country last year, and Matt Mooney and drawing a blank, the center, who's a great
Artis Gilmore.
He's been a great rim protector.
He was a good rim protector.
Artis Gilmore was.
I know.
I don't think Beard went to Texas.
Right.
That's where the speculation
Yeah.
really heats up.
Yeah.
I think the job that he'd be most interested in is Arizona, which is just down the road from where he is right now.
Yeah.
And
You think that one might come open?
well, if you're a tech guy, there's concern.
Yeah.
The FBI might have something to say about that.
All right, who wins the Big 12 tournament?
I'm going to go with Texas Tech. I think they're playing as well as anybody in the conference, and I think they're disciplined, well coached enough to handle the obstacles of playing essentially on Kansas' home court, and I like them.
I think Kansas beats Texas in the first round Thursday. Shaka Smart's fired. Kansas wins the Big 12 tournament, and the monster's not all the way dead yet. What do you think, Gil?
I think because it's in Kansas City, I think Kansas wins the tournament, but I think Texas Tech goes further in the NCAA.
I don't disagree with that. All right, there's a little Big 12 for you here on PressBox DFW Live. Next up in Wits End, he got fired from the second easiest job in Austin. The first easiest belongs to Bevo. Wits End, brought to you this week by PressBox DFW Live. Brought by Mama's Pizza and
Mama's
by
Pizza,
Fort Worth Business Press.
Fake Hank
And by Al Jolson. Yeah, that's who we're sponsored by.
Hank Aaron. It is Hank Aaron.
Hammer and
Don't you
Al, they
see?
call him back in the day.
Hank Aaron. Soon to be on eBay, by the way.
Is it? Why you're not going to sell that?
Well, you gotta.
I thought you were like just showing off your wares throughout 2,000
No,
years
I
of sports radio.
forgot
You're here
my
doing
for
like
sale.
this
You're
is not
fine.
QVC. You know?
It is QVC.
Is your better
It is
half demanding
QVC.
you declutter a little bit?
It is
that-
QVC.
Your better half demanding you declutter
No, I
a
got
little
room
bit?
for Hank. Hank's
All
been.
Well, thanks for
lasted
giving
on
me
this
Chief Wahoo here. I'm really
thing. I
proud.
didn't give him to you.
Thank you.
He's on loan.
Okay, maybe. All right, Wits End. What did you guys think when you heard just the sentence, Vince Young got fired at Texas? Isn't that just preposterous to even consider as a
Yes.
possibility?
Yes.
Oh, sure.
I mean, I thought it was fake. I was like, well, what would you have to do to get fired to be that guy from that school?
Some sort of felony.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it apparently took him 2 years to get to this point.
he is he's invincible at one time. He is a national championship, a Heisman Trophy runner-up, 30-2 record, had his number retired. I mean, here's one of the most famous plays in all of college football. You just couldn't tackle the guy.
See, I've never seen this. What happened?
Yes.
What-
Yeah, I had to
goes
dig deep
on
to
here?
find this.
I've never seen this.
In college, he was literally the man amongst boys. Nobody could tackle.
Football Zeus, yeah.
Football Zeus.
I was there that night.
And were you really?
Oh, yeah.
One of the greatest games you've probably ever seen.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, to get fired from a job that was basically a no-show job, it was show up. I guess it wasn't no-show. You did have to show up.
Right.
But it was basically, he was the president of the underwater basket weaving, college. I mean, this is a job that you cannot get fired from.
Be visible, shake hands,
Tell your
sign
story.
autographs, flash the hook 'em sign.
Right.
That's all he had to do.
And talk about money in
He
Texas.
didn't, like you suggested, he didn't have to do much more than Bevo.
Right. Bevo just stands up. Vince Young's like, I got to stand up and do hook 'em, but I can't do it. I'm out. I'm going to get fired.
And talk about money in Texas. They were paying him 6 figures to do this
Yeah.
job.
Part-time job. And, I mean, he's up there with Darryl Royal and Earl Campbell and Ricky Williams. I mean,
Absolutely.
He's right there. He's on the Mount
Absolutely.
Rushmore of Texas football. The last thing Texas wanted to do is fire him because it makes them look bad.
Right.
I mean, I wrote at PressBox DFW this week a column I did on Vince Young. Imagine the Mavericks. What would have to happen if the Mavericks were turned their back on Dirk? This is that level of disassociation.
Yeah,
right?
there'd have to be some sort of OJ scenario involved in doing something like that to get rid of Dirk.
Yeah. Also, I wrote in my column that this was akin to George Costanza getting pink slip from Vandelay Industries. He created Vandelay Industries. There's no way he's getting fired from that. Nolan Ryan getting uninvited to Globe Life Field. Can you imagine that ever happening? This is like Vince Young getting fired at Texas. Hugh Hefner getting blacklisted from the Playboy Mansion. It's that level of unfathomable, but he's done it. And
George Washington from Washington. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, there you go.
yeah,
actually, that probably is going to happen before long.
that probably will happen. And from reading the stories and talking to some people down there, two DWIs, one in February last month, didn't show up, missed a lot of, like you said, just show up and do hook 'em. He was late a lot, and he just no-showed a lot, and he didn't communicate with his supervisors on a regular basis. That just seems elementary to keeping a job, but congratulations, Vince Young. Bevo has a job and you don't somehow.
He made his recruiting visit, though, 10, 12, 15 years
Yeah,
ago.
he did.
He made that.
Exactly right. All right, next up on PressBox DFW Live, it's time to round the bases and head for home. The walk-offs next. It is the walk-off here on PressBox DFW Live. I'm Richie Witt alongside Gil Leberton and John Henry. This is the segment where each week we'll answer a question from a reader. Email to us at gleberton@pressboxdfw.com. If you have any questions, email Gil. He just sits at his computer all day waiting for questions. This week we've got a question from Wally Incognito. Wink, wink.
Heard of him before.
He said he would do the show today. And again, thanks to Wally Lynn for doing the show. He would do the show if we would talk about some of the old ballparks that we missed or some of our favorite press boxes. He just likes when we talk nostalgia, and that's what we're good at here on PressBox DFW Live. So I think I've got two favorite press boxes. One of them is what you just mentioned, the Rose Bowl. There's not a prettier scene in all of sports. You're at the press box. You got that. You got the grass field. You got the mountains over the stands. You look over this shoulder. You can see the ocean from there. I mean, it's just beautiful. That's just for aesthetics. But for feel and karma and just energy, to me, there's nothing like Yankee Stadium. And I hate the Yankees, but
New Yankee Stadium.
This is a picture I took at New Yankee Stadium a couple years ago. I went to Old Yankee Stadium. I like it a lot better. But just being, and again, that's from the press box, but going into, Monument Park and just feeling the history.
Yeah.
You come back to, Globe Life Park and you're like, what kind of ragtag is it? Are we calling baseball here?
It's old at 25.
Absolutely. But that's one of those, gives me just a beautiful view. One of them kind of gives me the chills. Gil, what do you got? What's your favorite old ballpark that you missed? or PressBox that you love?
Well, I'm kind of nostalgic. There's two. Obviously, everybody remembers if they're lucky enough to get to go to Wrigley. You remember the first time you go to Wrigley Field.
That's true.
And sit in the bleachers.
I've
and
never
that
sat in
whole
that
deal.
PressBox.
You're not missing anything.
didn't
The
think
press
I
box
didn't
is
think
like
so.
it's kind of medieval.
I don't think that's what they were going for. With the
I got to
decor.
go.
You think they were? They
I'll
put
say
the blueprint on the table and like, how do we make this medieval?
right. That's not the way to go. But the stadium and the whole experiences. But my favorite place, and it'll never be recaptured, is the old Astrodome. That's where I saw my first major league game.
Wait, that's your favorite?
Yeah, I like that. Look at this.
Yeah, I'm looking.
I mean, how can they
look at those graphics? It looks like they
that
invented
is-
Pong and then they did the
That
Astrodome
is
scoreboard.
modern
I mean,
technology at its finest, circa 1968.
yeah, what
I
year was
guess.
that? Did you take that?
No,
Or
I
did you just
didn't
find-
take
you just
that. I
unearthed
found
it?
that. No, see, look, it must be in the 80s because it's got the banners up there.
There's
But
an
I
HSC.
saw-
There's an HSC.
Yeah, that was Home Sports
My-
Entertainment. That was 80s. Yeah.
My dear friend, his dad took the two of us to in the second year of the Astrodome. Wait, the first year was 63, huh? So this would have been the third year, 65. And he took us to the Astrodome to see a weekend series, and they were playing the Dodgers, and we saw Sandy Koufax pitch on Friday, Johnny Padres on Saturday, and Don Drysdale on Sunday. And it was, that great atmosphere, the scoreboard spectacular, as it was called. We yelled charge when the trumpeter went
yeah.
off. I missed the place. And I mean, the old Astrodome was fun.
Absolutely.
I covered in the Astrodome for the Star Telegram the home run chase, McGuire and Bonds. And the Cardinals were playing the Astros late in the year, and the Star Telegram sent me down there to
Yeah,
cover
yeah.
McGuire's at bats. It was amazing. Have you?
Well, I covered when Randy Johnson was signed, his first game.
yeah.
That's probably the last baseball game I went to at the place.
So these days when they do like a Sunday night football or whatever, and the Texans are playing, they show whatever it's called. It used to be Reliant Stadium, and you see
It's
this
a
little outhouse
pup
next
tent.
to it, and you're like, "What is that?"
It's
And
a
you're like,
pup
"That's
tent.
Remember how big the Astrodome felt when
Yes,
we walked
it's
in
the
there?
Eighth wonder of the
Eighth
world.
It looks like a thimble next to the
Oh yeah,
stadium.
like
I
an
mean,
outhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. Favorite stadium?
Oh, it's probably for the same reasons that you like Yankee Stadium so much, the Cotton Bowl, and
yeah.
and what a hole that is. But I'm a hole kind of guy. I love the history. You can feel it.
Put that on your business card.
you could-
I'm a whole kind of
You
guy.
can feel Doak Walker.
Absolutely.
And being on the field is really
Yeah.
an immaculate experience.
Walking down that tunnel, and you feel like
Yes.
if these walls could talk.
Oh,
And I love
absolutely.
that it's just the Cotton Bowl. It's not
Right.
MasterCard or
Right.
Mama's Pizza, like you
Hey.
sellouts. It's still just Cotton Bowl. What? You think it's gonna be Mama's Pizza?
I think it might be Mama's Pizza.
All right, I've got a favorite. You talked about the scoreboard. I'm going to one up you. Here's my favorite scoreboard of all time. This is growing up as a kid, and this is old Arlington Stadium. Gil, what does that do for you?
Yeah. Oh, no. Now we're talking.
That's not
Now
from
we're
the-
talking high
That's
tech.
Yes.
press box, obviously. Looks like Charlie Huff about to deliver a 42-mile-an-hour
Budweiser,
knuckleball.
Coors.
But look at that scoreboard. I mean, that's how I grew up.
Look at that crowd. They must have been bat days.
Had been
I mean,
Bad
yeah,
day.
there's never crowds like that when I went.
Nothing says Eddie Childs like that picture.
That must have been David Clyde's star, and that was like the middle reliever that came in or something. But yeah, that's where I grew up.
That's
Those
where-
were $3 seats in general admission, one of those
yeah.
old metal bleachers, and yeah, I miss
yeah.
that place.
Good times.
Speaking of the Rangers, have you guys seen the rendering for Globe Life Field?
Yes.
Okay, let's put that up there, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I think of. 3 things, 3 words. Nebraska Furniture Mart. Tell me those people are not going, honey, there's a good deal on recliners over in aisle 407. That does not look like a baseball field, does it?
Sure it does.
Put that back up there, Ziggy. How? Where?
Well, you can see, you're going to be able to see through that glass,
Yeah.
and you'll see you'll see the grandstands, and you probably won't see the field because it's, subterranean. But the
Diamond in there somewhere.
I mean,
there's somewhere.
Does that look like a baseball
But this is
field?
what retractable roof stadiums look like now. They all have that the roof is a separate structure.
Yeah.
They're all going to look like that.
Are we okay with natural turf?
Yeah.
I mean, with artificial
Right,
turf or
right.
natural artificial turf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
You found
I with the new technologies there, sure.
I was in Surprise last week and talked to some of the players, and they're all like, "Yeah, I like it." And then I put my notepad down. They're like, "We don't like it." I mean, Elvis is like, "I'm a grass." I mean, I grew up on a dirt infield in Venezuela. I don't want fake grass.
And they're spending
Yeah,
all
but-
spring training on grass.
Yeah,
The outfielders,
absolutely.
will tell you that there were bare patches and
Yeah,
and,
yes,
and there was
you're
some
right.
painted
Yeah.
dirt out there that made to look like the grass. And,
Yeah.
and so
I would let them have the fake grass if they could bring back the big Texas scoreboard, but I don't think that's going to happen either. All right, read us each week at PressBoxDFW.com. Watch and or listen to us as you've done today. Thank you very much again. Right here on PressBox DFW Live at the site. Gil, what's the main stories we got going on this week? I know we got some Dan Jenkins tributes up there.
yes, Dan Jenkins is on there. We've got
Golden Glove story.
Golden Gloves.
Yep.
Yeah.
The state in Golden Gloves. Richie, the great story on Vince Young. Story today on Joey Gallo.
Yep.
Richie thinks Joey strikes out too much. Bulletin.
That's my hot opinion because I'm a whole guy.
Hey, don't try to hijack my identity.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah.
Right.
What do you think of Gallo, real quick? I mean, is he somebody you can build around, or should he even be on this team?
Oh, I think he's going to be a superstar.
You
I
do
really
not think that.
I do think that. I
He's been
think
hanging out with Al too long.
no.
I
I
think
think
Dave
he's
Kingman.
Thank you.
Although
Dave Hostetler.
I
the
told
Rangers
I
back in
told
the day.
somebody that, and they said you need to apologize to Dave Kingman.
oh.
Strikes out 40% of the time. I mean, that's crazy.
I think he will improve. I think he will get better.
He's having a really good spring. He's got 11
He's what, 20,
strikeouts. and
23, 24?
25.
20, he just turned
Yeah.
25.
Yeah.
Well, he's fine.
Okay,
He's going to be fine.
Rangers are going to lose 95 games in a lame duck stadium, but Gil says go watch Joey Gallo because he's going to be fine.
Oh, they got other players. We can talk about that next time.
All right, let's talk about that next time. All right, for Gil Leberton and John Henry, I'm Richie Witt. See you in the press box, DFW.